Hello, everyone that's joined the call so far. I'm Alan McIntyre here from Step Change and Safety. Welcome to the Q1 Site Managers Network Engagement Forum. We're just going to give it another minute or two. We've only got 5 external joiners at the moment, and we did have over 20 registrations for the event. So we're just going to give it another minute or two, and we'll start just a few minutes past 2. Okay, everyone. So I think we'll just get going. We'll give it a few minutes for any late arrivals. Hopefully, we'll see a few more coming as the meeting goes on. So again, welcome to Step Change and Safety's Q1 Engagement Forum for the Site Managers Network. We've changed it slightly. This time around, we're using MS Teams Premium to set up webinars rather than sending out direct invites to the distribution list. We find certainly with the site, the safety reps, it has increased engagement from our previous calls. It gives us the opportunity to join, advertise and put links up on the website. So we've seen a sort of increase in engagement from that perspective. So I think we'll continue with the webinars. Any feedback, of course, at the end of today's session and in general is welcome from the networks to see what your thoughts on are of the actual webinar itself, of course, and the join instructions and everything in the build up. So yeah, that'll be good too. But we'll play on today with today's Q1 forum. As I said before, my name's Alan McIntyre. I'm one of the program delivery managers here at Step Change and Safety, and I help coordinate the Site Managers Network along with co-chairs Dale Checksfield and Doug Severide here today. So just as a bit of before we get going, I'm going to just go around the room, guys. There's not, we've got small enough attendees just to give a quick sort of hello and where you are, who you're working for, and where you are working at the moment. That would be great. So I'm first time working this webinar, so I'm going to allow mics. So I'll start with John Alexander.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you, John. Perfect.
Yeah, sorry, that's just me and the technology. Yeah, so John Alexander, OIM on the Unity platform and the Fortis pipeline system for INEOS.
That's good, John, thank you. Robert Anderson.
Good afternoon. I'm the Senior Ops Manager for CAFA, currently looking after our operations on all the Adura, both Shell and Equinor sides.
Good. Thank you very much, Robert. Christian.
Hi, afternoon everyone. I'm based onshore for Harbour Energy, the VP for HSES. I've recently joined the Step Change leadership team onshore, so I was keen to come along and engage in this forum.
That's great. Thank you, Chris. David McGuire. maybe having some technical issues, David. Rob, I'll move on to Rob. Rob Fellows.
Yep, hi, Rob Fellows, OAM with Apache on the 40s Delta.
Thanks, Rob. Tony Janetta.
Hi guys, Tony Janetta, Operations Manager for Kiefer on the Mariner A and B platform for Adura.
That's good, Tony. Thank you. Lisa.
Hello, I'm Lisa Baker. I am the lead PHSE advisor at Stats Group, and I am sat out at Contour right now.
That's great. Thank you, Lisa. Don.
Yeah, I'm the Safety and Environment Manager for Repsol, onshore unconventional assets in the US.
That's great. Thanks, Don. Yvonne.
Hello, I'm Yvonne from Shell St. Fergus. I'm the HSE lead. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Yvonne. Dale.
Dale Checksfield, OIM with Harbour Energy and co-chair of the Site Managers Network.
Thanks, Dale. Doug.
Yeah, good afternoon, Alan. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Doug Sibright. OIM with Petrofac on the Jade platform in Equatorial Guinea and also co-chair of the Site Managers Network along with Dale.
Great. Thank you, Doug. Harry.
Yeah, hi, I'm Harry Boss. I'm the co-chair for the Offshore Helicopter Safety Leadership Group, and I'm the accountable manager and operations director for CHC in the UK.
That's great. David.
Hi, yeah, David Jamieson. I'm the co-chair of the HF work group in Step Change, and I'm human factors lead with Adura.
Thank you, David. Nicola.
Nicola. Sorry. Nicola Mackie as Marketing Communications Coordinator at Step Change and Safety.
And last but not least, I've got Graham Skinner in the room. You probably all know Graham. I'm going to turn the camera around because we're not set up in the room properly.
Hi, sorry, I didn't. We thought I'd drop in because it would be convenient to do it this way. So Graham Skinner, I'm the Health and Safety Manager at Offshore Energies UK.
Great. Thank you. That was my fault. I didn't invite the room, you see. This man set up as a webinar. See, teething problems for the first webinar. But thanks everyone for their attendance today. It's really good to see your faces. So just take me through quick overview of the agenda. So we're going to have an introduction and welcome safety moment from Dale, who's our co-chair of the Site Managers Network and OAM for Harbour Energy. Harry's going to take us through the update to the PED guidance for the travelling offshore in the UK continental shelf. And then David Jameson is going to take us through the new release safety critical task analysis guidance released by the Human Factors work group. And as David said, he's also the co-chair for the Human Factors work group within Step Change. And then at the end, Nick's going to take us through the new website, some of the new functionalities and the layout for the new Step Change and Safety website with a bit of a live demo in there, and then a bit of a final discussions and close. Okay, so I am going to hand over to Dale. Thank you, Dale.
Thanks, Alan, and thanks for your hard work in getting this arranged. I know the IT has been a challenge of many. So good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of myself and Doug as the co-chairs, thank you for joining our first Site Managers Online Forum of 2026. As site managers and leaders of high hazard workspaces, we sit at the intersection of operational delivery, workforce wellbeing and major accident hazard control, a somewhat unique position in industry. So before we head into what I hope will be a beneficial and enjoyable session, I thought it worth just reflecting on the purpose and value of the Site Managers Group. The network exists to support Step Change and Safety's mission of improving safety culture by strengthening the conversations we have, not just in meetings like this, but at the work site where risk lives and our decisions matter the most. Our aims of the network are relatively simple, but I think powerful. They are to provide strategic insight from the perspective of those closest to major accident hazard risks. OAMs like myself and Doug sit day to day close to the risks that we are trying to manage as organisations. We hear it, see it, and are able to provide that input in both directions back into the strategic part of the business and from the strategic part of the business back into operational. It's important that we support our safety reps by enabling meaningful engagement with the people they represent. We need to also bring our experience as high hazard worksite leaders to the existing work groups, both within step change and safety and within our wider communities. And we also have a role to play in deepening the understanding of step change and safety's leadership tools and resources within our communities. Also importantly is for us to build a community of influencers and enablers who champion safety leadership. All of us here are in our own way champions of safety leadership, and it's important that we continue to do that. And finally, and most importantly, is we need to create a safe space for industry sharing, because open learning is what prevents the next incident. So that's our purpose. And if we can move on to the next slide, Alan, I'm going to utilise that purpose a little bit to segue into the safety moment for today's session. Today's safety moment focuses on what is the increasing tension that we'll all be feeling in the energy industry between energy security and process safety discipline. And I'm going to specifically avoid politics, because this is not about politics, and it's not about our views in whichever way, shape or form they are on the government's current strategy or positioning. But I do want to focus on safety and the role that we can, should and need to play in this complex time as high hazard site managers. The UK energy sector, particularly the offshore sector, has been under pressure to maintain reliable supply against the backdrop of volatile global energy markets, geopolitical uncertainty, and that public expectation of security of supply. And you will have all seen the news, whether some of it's sensationalist or otherwise, about the UK only being 2 days away from having no gas, etc., etc. The pressure to keep producing is one that we will all recognise from a commercial perspective. And our workforce will no doubt feel it too, whether we as leaders narrate it or otherwise. And our position as site managers is one that is pivotal as demand for reliable production increases, the expectations on environmental and emissions performance are rising, and our margin for error on ageing assets in the UK sector remains tight. And this is the space where process safety leadership matters the most. Across major incident investigations from Macondo to Texas City, inquiries repeatedly find that time or production pressures drive risk-taking and erosion of controls. In Macondo, it was explicit that cost or time-saving decisions had a major contributory factor. And in Texas City, the Baker panel found leadership focus drifted towards production and cost at the expense of major accident hazard governance. So it's a reality that pressure changes behaviours. And in a strained operating context, it becomes easier for us to justify small deviations, move to a just this once approach, and a frame efficiency and production stability is more important or more urgent than process safety. Yet the reality is, in times of strain and process safety leadership is paramount. High hazards we work with don't reduce in line with commercial pressures. They remain unfazed by our commercial drivers. Next slide, please, Alan. So what does that mean for us in our role as site leaders? These four positions are ones that remain constant, but that I offer them as just an opportunity for us as leaders to reflect as we go through the coming weeks on what we need to be doing to ensure that our teams recognise that major accident hazard management remains the most important part of our job. So we need to continue to provide that visible, consistent leadership. Our teams need to hear us and see us reinforce that production pressures never override safety. We need to make major accident hazard control a conscientious conversation. Every meeting, every shift handover, every operational risk assessment, bringing it back to how we effectively control those major accident hazards is essential. A key opportunity and time for us to engage with our workforce. People at the front line are usually the ones that will pick up drift in our compliance, in our adherence and our governance before we as managers and leaders will. The psychological safety of our workforce and an open reporting culture is something essential, and we've got a role to continue supporting those across our business. And competence and preparedness, one that stands always, but again, becomes key for us to focus on, ensuring that teams understand why controls exist, especially when there's that temptation, insinuated or otherwise, to speed things up or just make sure we do things that little bit easier to grease the wheels of production. Our job as high hazard site leaders is quite simply to hold the line, to make sure that our organisations don't drift and to reinforce daily that safety is a performance measure and an essential part of our business, not a competing priority. It leads quite nicely into the step change mission statement, which Alan is going to do next. By us playing our part and by you playing your part, it will help us prevent incidents and injuries across the energy industry. My ask for the takeaway from the safety moment today is that you play your part in process safety leadership as we face this challenging time and make sure that we don't add any more challenge to what is already a complex picture by bringing an MAH forward in our industry. That's my part. I will kindly hand over to Harry, the Ops Director for CHC, who's going to talk about helicopter fire risk factors and PEDs.
Hello, everybody. Shortly, you'll be seeing a quick video about the danger of lithium-ion batteries inside helicopters. But to paraphrase in a very few sentences, what has changed in the offshore PED guidance is not that much. The basics are no more e-cigarettes, and that goes across all the operators. And yes, you can take earpods inside the cabin. The questions we had on what is a damaged phone, what constitutes a case, anything that is part of the helicopter, like a soft bag or anything is a case for a helicopter. Damage to a screen is not an important, but any damage that can influence the shape or functioning of a battery, that's where we take exemption, as you will see from the video that Alan will show you now.
A quick thumbs, quick thumbs up, folks, if you can hear the sound. Okay.
This is why we pilots really don't like lithium batteries. What you see here happened on a flight from Hangzhou in China over to Seoul in South Korea, just as they were cruising happily at 33,000 feet. This lithium battery fire that obviously forced them to divert, and they landed safely in Shanghai 40 minutes later. But this could have gone so much worse. Today, everyone carries phones, headphones, smartwatches, iPads, vapes, and power banks around, and they are all running on lithium batteries. So a fully loaded Airbus A321, like this one, could have easily had 600 lithium batteries just in the passengers' pockets and in the overhead bins. So always keep your devices with lithium batteries well protected in their cases, preferably on yourself. Be careful when you put them up in the overhead bins, because others could easily bump into them and deform their batteries, which could be the thing that triggers a fire like this. And whatever you do, do not put lithium batteries into your checked-in luggage.
So whilst this is a video from a fixed wing, there are some similarities with the helicopter world. We don't use overhead lockers, but we do put switched off laptops in the baggage compartment. But that's why it's important to keep to the baggage rules, and also to make sure that the device is switched off when it goes into the baggage compartment. With the next slide, I will go into a little bit of the reasoning behind that. So unlike fixed wings, we don't have fire suppression systems in the baggage compartment. So we face a greater risk from uncontrolled fires, and those create some safety concerns. If we have a fire warning in the baggage compartment, or a smoke warning in the baggage compartment, it will lead to an immediate landing or ditching. So as all the helicopter companies trying to stay out of the water, is one of the key drivers for our policies on lithium-ion batteries. E-cigarettes, they got the heating elements as well. They are an aviation fire hazard. There are documented incidents, and right now the UK fire services are called out for more than 3 lithium-ion fires per day. And that goes across the range from e-bikes to cars to several different things. But it's much more difficult to extinguish. Inside the cabin, all of the operators have got bags to protect from fire. And once the lithium-ion battery or the iPad or the telephone, whatever it is, gets in that bag, most likely at that point it will be thrown out of the window to contain the risk even further. Could you go to the next slide, please? The other adjacent issue to that is the escape options in the helicopter. We got smaller cabins, fewer escape routes, and that's why we need to stick to strict safety measures. We're trying to prevent the risk of fire or minimize it as much as we can, and that's why there is a no vape e-cig policy within all the helicopter companies, because we can't guarantee the quality of every one of them. Some people nowadays like to buy stuff on Temu, which does not all come with the same safety quality as some of the other brands. And lastly, the reason we've done this together and with Step Change and OUK is we want to be consistent, so that it does not matter which operator you fly with, we all do the same thing. And we all prioritize safety, because that is the one area where also in the helicopter world, we are not competing. Any questions?
The comments just agree.
I guess just one comment to back up Harry. I mean, this really is a very significant risk, and we've worked very hard to roll out this policy, but your role as site leaders is absolutely crucial in the implementation of this policy, because actually we have really good compliance with the rules when the helicopters fly from shore off to the installations, but we see a real challenge with compliance to these rules when people are flying back on shore again. So your role as site leaders offshore and in that environment is really critical to this. So do you empower proper checks and balances at the helicopter check-in to make sure that they are keeping people right? Do you encourage good compliance with this policy by all people on the installation, or do you allow even senior leaders to be working on their laptop until the very last minute as the helicopter is about to lift and they shove it in their bag and pull their flight suit on? Do you support the junior members of your crew who are doing heli admin and having to enforce these rules? So this success of this policy and the significant reduction in risk that it should achieve is definitely something which we need your support for in the offshore environment too.
I think just a quick question. So we fly with Bristow's, and I know they do random inbound checks for PEDs and stuff like that. CHC and the other operators doing that as well?
Yes, all of the operators do that, and those inbound searches, if there are any DGs found, get reported via a occurrence report to the CAA. They are very interested in what is coming out from our inbound searches. Same as Bristow, same as OHS and NHV. We do report this to our customers via customer service reports in our monthly and quarterly meetings, and we try and work together to get a message out and to make sure that everybody complies as much as they can.
And are we seeing an increase in those numbers, or are they staying relatively steady?
At the moment, they're staying relatively steady. We've seen a drop in the numbers after the first set of information that got out by Step Change and Safety and by OUK. Right now, it's fairly steady. It's not very high, but it's still high enough to be a worry, because only one event needs to happen for us to be spread all over the news.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Harry or Graham? No. Well, thank you, Harry, and thank you, Graham, for that update on the PED guidance. Thank you very much. I'm going to hand over to David now. David.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about a new guide that's come out from Step Change, just published, I think it was last month. It's available through the website. So it's about, as you can see there, safety critical task analysis. But I just want to frame this a bit more sort of broadly. So you might have heard of safety critical task analysis, or SCTA. You might think that it's a specialized thing, that it only applies to major accident hazards, and maybe it's something you don't need to be too interested in. But I just want to try and make the link between SCTA and any kind of risk assessment, and hopefully show you that there is something in the guide, I think, for everybody. So that's what we're going to have a look at. So if we can go to the next slide, or the first slide, really. Yeah, so I just want to start with, hopefully people have seen these before. These are the IOGP Human Performance Principles. They've been out for a little while now, and a lot of the kind of major oil and gas companies are behind these and are aligned with them. So basically, what we're saying here is that errors happen. We're all human, and mistakes will happen, and we need to sort of accept that, and we need to decide how we're gonna deal with that and how we're gonna respond. So one of the clear messages is that just blaming people isn't gonna fix anything. We've probably tried that for years, and it's not really got us anywhere. So we need to look at it in a different way. And one of the key things here is that context drives behavior. So to understand error, to understand what people do, why they do what they do, how they behave, why they behave the way they do, it's all about the context. If you can understand the context, the system, the organization, that's where you can find the true causes, and that's where you can start to address the risks. The fourth one is about learning. So yeah, it's not only investigating kind of individual incidents or doing these investigations in isolation. We need to start joining up the dots. What can we learn about what we do as organizations, and how that affects what people do? And then how you respond matters is the last one. So this is the idea that when things do go wrong, if we do start to blame people, then we just shut down the conversation, basically. So how you respond matters. You need to have that learner mindset. We need to think about the context that's led to the behavior, and we need to be keen to show that we really want to learn from that. So these principles, they underpin they're kind of at the heart of what we're trying to achieve when we do a safety critical task analysis, or as I'll show, when we do any risk assessment and we're thinking about human error, then these principles really underpin the whole thing. So a good starting point. If you haven't seen these or you haven't done anything with them, I would really encourage you to have a look. There is a bit more information on the IOGP website if you're interested. Okay, so next. Yeah, so just a little bit more about error. So what do we mean? How can we think about error? How can we deal with it in a practical sense? That's really where we're trying to get to. So what we're interested in here is what you might call honest mistakes. We all make them. We don't mean to, they happen. So it's things like we forget, we have lapses of attention, we misjudge things, we have slips. It's all very human. It's going to happen, and What we need to do is try and predict where these things will happen, especially if there could be a major consequence. We also need to think beyond the error. So this is getting back into the whole conversation about context. We say in human factors that the error is only a starting point. It's never a cause. It's just the starting point to understand what the causes are. So what was behind the error, or what triggered the error? What led up to the error? And that's where you get into a whole load of different factors. It might be communications. It might be something to do with the procedure. But these are the things we need to understand. That's where we can make changes that will make a difference. Yeah, so it's more than just about physical hazards. So when we do a kind of a traditional risk assessment, if you want to call it that, it tends to be all about physical hazards, which we understand fairly well, and we're pretty good at putting in the right barriers, the right controls, I would suggest, for physical hazards. But it's where a human error could lead to something going wrong. It's that risk that I would suggest we're not so good at capturing when we do a risk assessment. Okay, next. Yeah, so this just builds on it a little bit more, and this is the idea that we need to think about the system or the wider context in understanding error. So organizational processes, how things are designed, how we interact, the culture that exists at the work site, all these things impact what people do, and give us the outcomes. So it's at that level that we need to try and make changes if we want to have that impact at the front line. I think there's a few bullets here, but I think I've covered all that. Yeah, that's fine. So we can just go to the next slide. Yeah, so that's the background. That's the theory, if you like. But how can you apply this in practice? So this is something that we really wanted to try and address on the human factors work group. So safety critical task analysis is a method or an approach that you can use to look at human error in a risk assessment, and come up with the right controls to reduce or eliminate the risk of that error. It's typically applied to MAH, major accident hazards, but one of the points I want to make today is that it doesn't have to be MAH. I mean, that's the kind of the focus in the guidance, but human error in any task can lead to a consequence, whether it's MAH or not. So it's something that we should be interested in for any task and any risk assessment, really. So that comes back to my point from earlier, that I think there is something in this guide that could apply for anybody. So any task. And what we do in the guide is we split it into just 4 really simple steps. So identifying what tasks you're interested in. So in the guide, it's all about MAH tasks or tasks with MAH risk, but it doesn't have to be, could be whatever it is, whatever area you work in, which are the tasks that, cause you the most concern, or which of the tasks have the most risk. Or assessing the errors that could lead to consequences in those tasks. Thinking about what causes the error. So as I said, going beyond the error, but what causes that error? What are the system factors or the management factors that could actually cause that error? And then what risk controls do we need? So it is really, as you can see, it's really the approach we would take for any risk assessment, but it's got that focus on human error, and specifically trying to address that. Next slide. Yeah, so I just 2 or 3 of the things from the guide that I think could apply for anybody doing anything. So to help you with which tasks or parts of tasks would we focus on, because we can't look at everything, we can't assess everything. So there are some prompts here. So where might there be, the serious consequences or the highest risk consequences if something goes wrong? If you've got little or very little or no chance of recovery, so you get to a point of no return, that's something you would want to sort of have on your list. If you've got known difficulties based on experience, where things have changed, so that's a big one, where maybe things have changed since the last time, and that's something that we maybe need to have a look at. And then anywhere in a task where there are parts of that task that are dynamic, where it's maybe fairly fast moving, you've got to use some skill, you've got to use some judgment. It's those steps are quite prone to human error. So again, those are the kind of steps that you would focus on. So yeah, you would see it in the guide. There's a few prompts to help you focus in on certain tasks. Next slide. Yeah, and then what could go wrong and why. So to consider human error, again, we've got prompts. So, okay, somebody could make a mistake. What does that look like? So you could think about, what if it wasn't done, if it was done at the wrong time, if the judgment was wrong. So there's just some really simple prompts. We don't have to get bogged down in too much detail here about the type of error, but it's, usually if you ask somebody who carries out a task what could go wrong, then they can tell you what could go wrong. But we're asking, where could the person go wrong, or what could a mistake look like? That's the sort of key question. So we've got a little, if you just keep going on the slide, so as well as what would the error look like, once we've got that, then what could trigger the error, what could cause the error? And this is where we're thinking again about the context, situational factors, conditions that could cause something to could cause an error, which could then lead to the consequence. So just a really, really simple example on the right-hand side here, but so we've identified here that the error is that we open a valve out of sequence. So that's something we then need to do something about, because in this, let's just say that particular, if we open that valve out of sequence, there's a fairly serious consequence from that, and the only control we have is the operator. So that's something we need to look at. So, but what we need to get into is what are the conditions that would make that error more likely. So that's what you see in the blue boxes. So things like lighting, tagging, valve indication, and what it says in the procedure. So in this little example, we've identified these things need some improvement. And if we improve those factors in the blue, then there's less risk of the error happening. So that's just a very simple example of how you would look at it. The guide would take you through this in more detail. And then the next one is just about the last slide. So this is it's a bit small maybe for you to read, but it was just to show you that this is something taken from the guide. So we've got worked examples. So it's a short guide. It's only about, I don't know, 15, maybe not even that. I mean, there's only a few pages to read. It's a very short guide. And then at the back of it, we've got appendices and we've got worked examples. So tasks that you might look at. We've got and then we've got examples of how you could work through the task, what that would look like. And we've got these kind of worksheets. So these are all about performance influencing factors. So these are the excuse me, these are the things excuse me. These are the things that could cause the error. So performance influencing factors, or PIFs. And we've put in these kind of worksheets that you could use when you're assessing a task. You could use them when you're doing maybe a talk through of the task, and it's taking you through plant and equipment type issues that you might need to record, anything to do with the procedure. And there's a whole load of sort of more general factors that could influence the task, so the environmental type factors, but things like time pressure, communication type issues, roles and responsibilities, and that sort of thing. They're not all shown here, but so we've put that in there as a practical tool that you can use. And when you go to the Step Change website to download the guide, there's also 3 or 4 Excel files. So all the worksheets, including what you see here, are all available in Excel. So that's all there as a resource that can be used. And I think that's the last one. It is. So any questions or any comments or thoughts on any of that?
Really helpful run through. Thank you, David.
Okay, good.
Okay, thanks, David. And as David said, the SCTA guidance now available to download via the Step Change in Safety website. It's available to both members and non-members, available to industry. So if you're interested, take a look, please. Thank you very much, David. Thanks for your input today. Okay,
Thanks.
So the last part of the agenda now, I'm going to hand over to Nicola and Mackie, who's our Marketing Communications Coordinator. He's going to take us through the new Step Change in Safety website. So stand by, just stay silence on my laptop.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully you've seen by now that we've launched our new website. So that's now at stepchangingsafety.com. So what you'll notice, what's new, is it's a bit more of a modern, clean design that reflects who we are and what we do. A clearer menu structure and layout, so it's easier to kind of see and go through and kind of click on what you're able to find, and it's less clicks. Accessibility, it's mobile responsive, improved readability, and pushes new content to our homepage. The search and filters, search engine optimized, so you're easier to search for the whole website and within the resource area. We've also got insights into engagement, which helps us understand what resources are being used and what pages are most viewed, etc. In which we're working to continuously improve these pages as well once we go along the way. So to start off with as well, it's most importantly is creating an account. So to create an account, you can go to the website in which you can go to register/log on and go to create an account and complete the registration form. So this is currently a manual process on our side as well to verify you're a member once registered. So just to make you all aware, it's not immediate access. It kind of takes up to 1 working day for that to come through, and you can then access all member resources and all member benefits. But nevertheless, if you need urgent access straight away, feel free to email the info email address or my email address, which will come up later on. And I just want to also highlight the site managers page, which has been recently updated. So that kind of highlights the purpose of the site managers network, and then access to key resources and guidance, and then how to join the site managers network and get involved, and also upcoming events and ways to connect with the network.
Find out more by visiting our website today. Head to www.stepchangingsafety.com.